Hello. Okay, today I wanted to talk about the recent events for the past couple of days. As you guys may have known, a boy named Mike Brown was shot and killed by the police, and there has been riots. Like a few people have been rioting, and I don't know what community it was. I'm not sure, but in the wake of Mike Brown's death, people have been rioting and looting, and there has just been so many respectability politics on Twitter about that. People have been saying that, oh, you're making this worse, you're not really helping the situation. People are going to look at black people worse than they already do. And I'm sitting there on my Twitter tweeting away like, well, a black boy is already dead for doing absolutely nothing. So rather, whether you're looting or just sitting there doing absolutely nothing, I'm sorry, but a lot of black people in this society are doomed. And it's like you're just walking outside the house, just minding your own business. And if you walk the wrong way or if you look the wrong way, then a police officer will probably shoot you. And I'm not like saying this to instill fear into many black boys and black girls, but a lot of people are being shot recently. There's a lot of police brutality, and this has specifically been affecting black youths. And I'm just very disturbed how people think in order for this madness to stop, you should just you should basically be a good black person. Like be a good black person and everything will be fine. But as you know from history, it just won't happen. It can't happen. And Martin Luther King, was far from this respectable black man that so many white people try to make it out to be, and so many naive people of color tried to make him out to be. He wasn't passive. He wasn't just some black man who was like, okay, just be peaceful and do absolutely nothing. That was not his, approach. His approach was to have, nonviolent protests until something, got a little bit out of hand, because it's kind of ridiculous how people think that people should just sit there and take the shit that they get, taking the abuse. Martin Luther King wasn't just someone that, believed in reverse racism that people love to make it out to be. He was not that type of person. So quit misquoting Martin Luther King to suit your own colorblind agenda, because that's racist and it's a disgrace to his memory. But I've been tweeting a lot this week, and shortly after Mike Brown's death, Robin Williams, a very beloved comedian, passed away from apparent suicide, and that was very devastating as well. And a lot of people have showed him respect, and I knew right away people were going to say, okay, Robin Williams, a white man, died. So that means that no one is going to care about Mike Brown if they are sending their condolences to his family and his memory. And I'm like, first of all, yeah, I understand where you are coming from, but to pit Robin Williams' tragedy to Mike Brown's tragedy is very problematic because it belittles both. It belittles suicide and it belittles police brutality. And I've seen so many people, and I'm going to say this, so many POC basically belittle suicide in order to get their point across about police brutality. And I'm thinking, like, you can be both upset over Robin Williams' death and still be concerned over Mike Brown. Because when I heard about Robin Williams' death, I like tweeted about that. I tweeted away, retweeted some RIP tweets from people that I followed and celebrities, and then I went back to talking about colorism, racism, anti-blackness, and Mike Brown. I could do both. Just like I'm concerned for Gaza, between Israel and Palestine. I'm concerned for a lot of things. I may not talk about them all at the same time, but to make it like you can't be concerned over your favorite celebrity's death, someone that you more or less grew up with, and then not be concerned over racism and police brutality, that's just erroneous. It really is. And when people try to say, "Oh, you're just upset because some white man died," that's not even about that. It's not even like the fact that he's white and like suddenly, yeah, he's more important than Mike Brown, because it's sad. I really am sad, but I do know, yeah, Mike Brown, that instant, is such a huge problem. But it's not even like the fact that Robin Williams, is like a white man with privilege, that killed himself. Because as someone said, suicide does not discriminate. But I do want to say that there are high risk factors depending on your position in society. If you are not someone who is wanted or considered top of society, then you have a higher chance of getting something like depression or some sort of mental illness that manifests from how society treats you. It really does. So yes, depression, suicide, and mental illnesses do not discriminate. However, I think it needs to be noted that the more oppressed you are in this society, the higher chance you may um, have when it comes to suicide or depression. And I really don't know how to put this in exact words, but that's how it is. But I really don't appreciate the belittling of Robin Williams' death because of Mike Brown. And you don't really have to like dedicate your time talking about Robin Williams, but you could at least show some respect, because I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. Why are we giving this white man humanity? Like, why are we concerned for his humanity, but people aren't concerned for Mike Brown's humanity? And I completely understand that. But unfortunately, as people of color, we are able to grasp a white person's humanity better than a white person can grasp our humanity. And that's very sad how, in spite of white privilege, in spite of white supremacy, in spite of all the shit that has gone down, throughout these years, we still are able to separate that from an individual that we like and care about. And it's very sad that, of all the reasons to really not give a damn about white people, we really do. Like, we have so many reasons why we should not just fuck with them. And some of us still are able to grasp humanity. Some of us are still able to not really have that prejudice towards white people or an individual who happens to be white. And I'm sorry that it's the way it is, because if only people could look at Mike Brown the same way as people are looking at Robin Williams. Because I'm sure there are a lot of people who think, well, yeah, now this is a person who deserves to be mourned over because of his death, because his death was a tragedy, and Mike Brown was just some thug. That's not true. And I completely understand the frustration over the fact that, Robin Williams, a white man, dies, and, people are, accordingly upset about it. And then Mike Brown, people are utilizing respectability politics. Kiki Palmer is on Twitter using the same colorblind rhetorics that people who really don't understand racism on Tumblr or Twitter use. And it's just really upsetting. And NAACP was basically saying the same thing on Twitter. And it's funny because I already knew that NAACP had a lot of problems, because NAACP to me is not perfect. Like, historically, black colleges aren't perfect. A lot of these black organizations aren't perfect. A lot of them are based off of misogyny, colorism, homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, all of that. So I wasn't really surprised that they did utilize respectability politics on NAACP, because, come on, it's a lot of these black organizations that say they are for the advancement of African Americans and POC, really, they sort of water what they believe down. They're not going to be like me on Twitter, just being unfiltered and going ham on the races and talking about white privilege. A lot of them aren't like that, because a lot of people who do talk the way I do, a lot of people who do talk like a lot of the black youths on Tumblr, really don't get far in their politics, because they're not white centric, and that's very unfortunate. But yeah, NAACP has been very problematic to me. I remember reading an article that Cola Booth sent a long time ago about how Walter Francis White, who was a very light skinned black man, he was white passing, and I believe he was like, I don't know, 1/32 black because of the whole one drop rule, but he was considered a black man. He was the president of NAACP in the 1940s or something like that. And he said that in order to end anti-blackness, we must bleach his skin. We must bleach our skin and be as white passing as him. Something like that. Basically saying that skin bleaching is the ultimate cure of anti-blackness. It reminded me of the whole, if we all have mixed children or if we all become mixed, racism will be over, because people look at the idea of being mixed as in light skin, very ambiguous features where you can't really tell if someone is black or not. Just that whole colorist stereotype of what it is to be mixed race. And there has been a lot going on, and I'm really am sad over Robin Williams. I'm sad over Mike Brown. My prayers go out to their families and their memories, and I really, really do want the police brutality to stop. And I know it's simplistic for me to say that because it's not going to happen anytime soon. But it's scary out there how so many black men in particular are being gunned down. And when I say black men in particular, I say this because yes, I know that black men do have high risk of police brutality and racialized violence. And I do find it annoying when people specifically say black boys are in danger, like black girls, black dark skinned girls cannot be in danger, because they can. As Gradient Layer said on her Twitter, they may assume that she's a black man from the back of her head, but as soon as they find out that she's a black woman, it turns into not only racialized violence, but sexual assault. And so many black women are assaulted by the police, and they don't tell anyone. They don't tell anyone because like why would they? Why would they if the system is against them? If society hates black women, if society believes that black women are unrapeable and they are so impure that there is no way that anyone can violate them, that only white women or light-skinned WOC can be violated. So yeah, why would a dark-skinned black woman or a young dark-skinned girl sit there and say, some white man raped me or molested me, when many people aren't going to believe her because she's black, because she's dark-skinned, because she's unwanted. So they are looked at as easy targets. The more unwanted you are in society, the more susceptible to violence that you as a woman will be. There has been people who has admitted that, as a light-skinned black man, I probably would not be in Mike Brown's place. They're not being assholes about it. They're speaking the truth. You most certainly cannot, be immune to racialized violence, light-skinned or not. Really, you cannot. Mixed race or not, you are not immune to racialized violence because you are still black. You are light-skinned and you cannot be a victim of colorism no more than a white person can be a victim of racism, but you can still be a victim of racism and police brutality and racialized violence and anti-blackness as a black person, as someone who is mixed with black. You are still a victim of anti-blackness, and you still can be a victim of anti-blackness. It doesn't matter if you're light-skinned and mixed and racially ambiguous. Yes, you can be a victim of racialized violence, but it's not as likely if you were more visibly black, if you were dark-skinned. So don't think, oh, I can't be a victim of racialized violence because I'm light-skinned, because no, you should be concerned for your own safety as a black person. Look at Emmett Till's memory. If you look at his pictures, they were in black and white, but you could very much tell that he was a very light-skinned boy. He was probably maybe a yellowish complexion just from looking at the pictures. So it's kind of telling how, the most, one of the most brutalized murders of black men and black boys was someone who was light-skinned. And I did say how most of the time when you look up pictures of black men being lynched, most of them are dark-skinned, most of them aren't light-skinned, high-yellow men in their suits and ties. Most of them, are brown-skinned and dark-skinned men. But that does not mean light-skinned men have never been lynched. That's not true. That's, it's not like light-skinned black women have never been dehumanized, like Dorothy Dandridge being a light-skinned black woman who is accepted in Hollywood because she was light skinned, and I believe she came from a mixed race background, but she was still treated as less than a white woman because she was not looked at as pure and beautiful. And a lot of people believe that when people say dark skinned black women are ugly or black women in general are ugly, it doesn't even necessarily have to be like, oh, they are physically ugly because they have dark skin or broad features. It could just be because they are not white, they are impure, they're not beautiful, because beauty is seen as humanity and pureness. So if you are black, a black woman, you're already impure. Because here's the thing, women in this very sexist and misogynistic society are deemed as impure just for being women. But this whole construct of virginity, which I used to believe, that's bullshit. Like, what is this social construct of virginity that Lacey Green is talking about? It's my virginity. I'm going to, like, protect it because I don't want someone to use and abuse me. That's something special to me. But really, really, you have your choice of abstinence, and, you have your choice to wait to marriage and all of that. But really, your virginity is really, it's not real. It's not real. It's a social construct, created by misogynists to keep women in order, to not have them run around and sleep around with other men. It's your body. Like, you're not losing anything. You're not giving your virginity to anyone. It's your first time. And, yeah, it may seem like, oh, yeah, this is special because he's my first or she's my first. But it's really not, how people used to think of their virginity or their sexuality. Times are changing. Sexuality is sexuality. We are all different. We all have different sexual orientations, or we all have different, how should I say this? Like, we all have different sex drives. We all have different ways of expressing our sexuality, and there's no wrong way to do it. I've been kind of going off topic, just talking about a variety of subjects on here, but these have been basically the things that I've been thinking about, with Mike Brown, with Robin Williams, with the police brutality, racialized violence. Oh, and I do want to say this. I've been seeing so many white people on Twitter on the "if they gun me down" hashtag, posting one picture of them holding a beer bottle or something that's considered unsavory, and then they are in like a tuxedo or a prom dress, just looking respectable. And first of all, they have no business being on that tag. That hashtag, because it's for black people in particular who are going to be gunned down, or if they are gunned down, and people are going to be biased and show a picture of them looking all thuggish or looking slutty if you are a black woman. And I don't mean it in the literal sense, but how people think of thuggish and slutty. And people are going to say, oh, yeah, they deserve to die because here's a picture of them drinking and partying with their friends and looking like thugs. And it doesn't apply to you, because you can still be white and a hoodie and a snapback and still looked at as human. I remember this girl a couple of days ago said on her Twitter, you see, this is why I hate cops. She's a blonde white girl. I went to school with her. I went to high school with her. And I'm not going to sit there and be like, okay, classism may not have anything to do with how certain white people are treated in society, because I believe she's not a rich girl. Like, the school that I went to was rich, and it was in an affluent neighborhood. So she's definitely not someone you would look at as privileged in the whole class sense, but she still has white privilege. And she's a attractive blonde white girl. So I'm like, why do you hate the cops? It's kind of weird when white people say, I hate cops, because you really don't understand, why do you hate the cops? Because you can't smoke weed. It's worse if you are black with weed. Why do you hate the cops? Because they busted your party. when you drunk underage, and a few hours later they let you go. They let your mom or dad pick you up. That's really nothing. It's not. Yeah, white people can face police brutality, but it certainly isn't because they are white. White women can face police brutality, but it'll probably be because they are women, most likely because they are women and not because they are white. Like, police brutality isn't just something that black people go through, but it's certainly something that they are susceptible to, because you're never going to hear a white man being shot for being unarmed and people just vilifying him and saying that he deserved it. That white girl, that sad story where some burglar came into her house and he held her at gunpoint, and the police came in and shot him, but they accidentally shot that girl, and it was so sad. But people weren't saying, oh, yeah, like, she probably deserved it, because Renisha McBride, who is a girl in a car accident, went to this white man's house to ask for help, and he shot her in the face. That's real. I mean, I know you're going to think, oh, well, that's different because, the white girl was being held hostage and someone broke into her house. So it wasn't intentional, but no one was trying to vilify her. There was nothing wrong with what Renisha McBride did. She just went over and asked for help. So it wasn't warranted, but still people found reasons to vilify her, and it was because she was a black girl. Okay, someone's calling. Well, I was going to stop anyway, but thanks for watching this video. Tell me what you thought about what I said, if you agree or disagree. Talk to you later.